moderator, Mr. Håkan Kingstedt, who is also the chairman of Swedish-India Business Council. Thank you.
Dear ladies, gentlemen, distinguished guests, the subject is Made in India, transfer of technology. We have a situation now when the launch of Make in India was in September. It will soon be 1 year, 12 months ago. It's very much about encourage technology sharing with OEMs, with India, but also please consider SME companies. There is a lot of small, interesting SME companies with excellent technology. It should be both for manufacturing. Swedish industry have a global base today, but we have the newcomers who is not there yet. India's defense and aerospace industry is going a rapid change, moving to high technology products. So the question is, how could we expand this opportunity together to create win-win situations? Transferring technology, you need to have a sender, you need to have a receiver. Very often we talk about the sender who have the technology, but it's equally important to monitor, look into, and prepare the receiver for a successful result. We will learn more about this in the afternoon, and I would call up on stage our first speaker, Mr. Jan Widerström, head chairman of Saab in India, and has been there for many years. Jan, please.
Thank you. Ladies, gentlemen, distinguished members from the Indian industry as well as Swedish industry. I would like to open up with saying a few words about Make in India and try to be somewhat provocative in my speech. So please don't judge me too hard. I think the purpose of this is to ask questions, maybe stick out a little bit. So what is Bharat Mein Bahano? Is that the right pronunciation? Make in India, as Håkan said, that was launched a while ago, and the question is that the answer for India's growth as well as the answer for the business, country to country, nation to nation, going in, going out of India? First, just a few words on what we are and where we are in India today. We have currently about 300 people employed in the country. Not a big number, but we're growing, and these people are working truly within the high-tech industry. So already there, we're into the transfer of technology. We do have an R&D center where we outsource technology. We outsource our R&D, and I think that is one of the areas where we as Swedish industries can see truly a win-win situation. We do advanced composites for the aerospace industry. We're actually producing in India, exporting out of India for both companies like Boeing and Airbus. And I had a conversation with the head of that plant a couple of weeks ago and asked him, but what is the output? What is the quality? And he looked me in the eyes and he said, equally good or better than what we get from Linköping. Sorry for saying that here in Sweden, but that was the answer. That gives me hope, definitely, because the output quality is extremely important. So, why are we in India then? I think there's a lot, and then probably a lot has already been said during these days. Sweden and India is a perfect match. I think so, I truly think so. We do share our values, democracy. We do share values when it comes to I would say, business, trading, and liberalization in the future. And we're definitely willing to be part of, and I think Make in India maybe is the answer for that, when it comes to transferring the 80-20 to the 2080, which is the long-term vision for the Indian government, if I understand it right. So, Make in India, is that the answer? What does India need to boost its technology industry, high-tech industry? Do we, I say we, do we need more money coming into the country? Do we need more engineers coming to India or being trained in India? Do we need more technology? We talk about technology transfer, and Håkan very rightly said, sending, transceiving, that's the important part. I'll talk more about that later on. And finally, do we need more protective regulations? So, more money. Do we need more money? Is that the lack? Is that why India is not taking off? Again, this is my view. I don't think so. There's a lot of money in the market. If you can find the right environment, then you have the investment, you have the money's there. Do we need more engineers? High-skilled people? I don't think so. India is one of the biggest producers in the world of engineers and highly skilled PhDs, masters. I mean, the numbers are mind-boggling when you talk about how many PhDs and masters per year India is producing. Clearly amazing. I mean, we Sweden claim that we are a high-tech country, but if we calculate and count the engineers, this cannot be the limitation for India. So technology, I think that's where we often end up in. We need technology, India says. You have to transfer technology. Give it to us, of course, for free. And that's the debate ongoing and, I would say, never ending. The way I see it is that what is technology? How do you create technology? You create technology, if you have a need, you have the right skilled personnel. Technology, I would like to say that technology is like respect. You can't request it, you earn it. Technology is also something you build up in the country. If you're going to need a sustainable technology base, you can't just demand that the environment around you, the countries around you, should give it to you for free. So, Make in India, will it help? Can it create a better environment? Not having seen or not yet knowing all the, call it, legal details of what the final product Make in India is, I would say that if we can keep the regulators away and Make in India will be allowed to be this creator of this improved business environment. And it has the potential to do that, because compared to today, at least in my branch, it is a huge difference between Buy and Make Global, where we have 70% TOT and 30% direct offset. Try to do money on that. Compare to what I hope will be Make in India in the future, where we find an Indian partner and together with the Indian partner, we'll create a win-win and a healthy business together for India. Big difference the way I see it. So I really have a lot of hope in Make in India to make a difference, get us out of this offset and TOT burden and open up the market tell the Indian partner, the foreign OEM, you do healthy business together. That is good for India, I think. It's good for us. It's good for the Indian industry. And what's good for us in Indian industry, I guess that's what we all want. So, of course, we're here. And again, I hope a lot on Make in India. I'll try again. Bharat Mein Banao. That's the way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this would then be from the Swedish side. Then I will call up on the Indian side, Mrs. Harshbani Savari, MDM President for NRB Bearings, one of the leading ladies in business in India. Welcome on stage.
So again, it's a great pleasure to be here. And this time I'm speaking on India's manufacturing competitiveness and why it's a great place to transfer technology to or transfer technology from. So what is the India advantage? A low-cost labor force. As many of you know, India has amongst the lowest labor costs in the world, approximately 1,500 US, $1.50 US per hour. The other amazing advantage that India offers, which no other country in the world offers, is the demographic dividend. I think the President spoke at great length about how young our population is and how we have the largest working class population for many years to come. Our currency advantage is something that you don't hear of that often, but the currency is steadily depreciated, and it makes it a very, very competitive and reliable place to be. Growing domestic demand, it's always nice to manufacture right near where you can sell, and that's another great advantage. And as you've been hearing repeatedly, we're very serious about building our infrastructure, which is really what left us behind in the first place. Many, many free trade agreements. We haven't spoken so much about this today, but India has a very large chunk of free trade agreements that have been signed with almost every region in the world. So let's talk about the demographic dividend. 500 million people in the labor force, the second largest English-speaking population in the world, and this is expected to become 125. It's right now 125 million and expected to quadruple in the next decade. Low labor costs, we spoke about that, but what's very interesting is that India is among the top 25 exporting countries, second lowest in labor cost. This is something that we have discussed at length, but again, to really highlight some of the statistics, with the 8th country in terms of R&D investments in 2013, amongst the top 10 nations for academic publications, as I said, and we have the largest pool of engineers in the world. Urbanization and infrastructure actually are a terrific advantage. India has 68 cities which will soon have a population of more than 1 million people. That's a very powerful statistic. And the reason it's important is these are the emerging megapolises which are going to be the most competitive place for manufacturing to be. So you have a large pool of talent, you have universities coming up, you have Make in India infrastructure coming up, and 37 million workers decided to leave the agricultural sector, not because they didn't have enough work there, but because there was much, much more money to be made in the factories that were being set up in their own backyards. The growth and development of these cities that I mentioned will bridge the urban-rural divide and reduce stretch on the infrastructure. It will also reduce logistics cost, and $1 trillion are being spent on infrastructure between just now and 2017. And we feel that this will make these cities a very competitive manufacturing base. Educated young aspirational population and the emerging infrastructure in the new urban center will facilitate cost-effective technology development. I speak about the automotive sector now, which is my own sector for the most part. We're in mobility solutions, so a fairly high percentage of what we supply goes into this sector. By 2016, the Indian automobile market is estimated to become the 3rd largest in the world, and it will account for more than 5% of global vehicle sales. By 2020, we will be the 4th largest automobile producer. Automobiles comprise 22% of the country's manufacturing GDP. Overall contribution of automotive to the country's GDP is expected to double, reaching a turnover of $145 billion by 2016. The government of India encourages foreign direct investment in this sector, and it goes through automatic clearance. As you heard in the morning, Volvo has been a beneficiary of this growing Indian bus segment. What's very interesting is that there's a large, sustainable luxury market, not only the low-cost market that you hear of. And Indians are very discerning, quality-conscious supply chain, both suppliers and also consumers, and that's interesting. So as a company that supplies into the Indian industry, you're very quality conscious. As a consumer, you're very quality conscious. And I think that's the fundamental difference between China and India, which is why brands matter a great deal in India. The auto segment is supported by the auto components industry. The auto components industry overlaps with general engineering, with aerospace, with railways. So the Indian auto industry is a very, very, very exciting phase today. We expect the turnover to grow from 35 billion to 115 billion by 2021, and exports will go from 12 to 30 billion. These are very conservative figures. The Indian auto component industry will become the 3rd largest in the world, also quadruple, and estimated 40% of auto manufacturing is done today by foreign players. And that also is a very interesting situation. And the reason for that is high quality standards again. 15 cars per 1,000 really shows you how far India has to go, which is also a great opportunity. To compare this consumption rate with China, which is 60, and Brazil, which is 200, shows you the opportunities here. Defense. Defense is really going to be, I think, the most dynamic and fastest growing industry in India. We are the largest arms importer in the world, meeting 60% of our requirements through imports. This is exactly what the Indian government wants to reverse. Imports of major weapons increased by 110% between 2004 and 2008. Russia accounts for 70% of the imports, even today. The government is on the verge of announcing 10 defense projects. Every single year, Make in India is going to be linked deeply with this defense strategy. And in fact, there are so many exciting things happening in defense. You know that the new policy that the government has announced is going to be a simple document, 25 to 30 pages. In 2014, the government allowed foreign direct investment up to 49% through the automatic route, above 49% through Cabinet Committee on Security, and all the necessary requirements for this are being put into place. I think that with the skilled talent pool that we have and the manufacturing base for auto components, definitely, this is an industry that will grow. I won't tell you what Saab did, because you just heard about that a few minutes back. What many people don't know about India is how much and how vibrantly the exports are growing. In 2015, engineering exports are expected to cross 70 billion, and 60% of this goes to Europe and to the US. Our company exports 25% of its turnover, and 90% of it goes to Western European countries. Companies owned by Western European companies. They don't necessarily go here. They go to 23 different locations of Volvo, of Daimler, of ZF. And that's, again, the India advantage, that quality is surprisingly important for a country that has such a low GDP. With the skilled and young talent pool and low cost, Indian companies are able to provide customized solutions versus mass production, making it competitive. While we all know that China has had a currency advantage in the past 10 years, it's fast losing that. The other thing that I think is very important is that China continues to be a powerhouse of large volume, mass-produced goods. That's very different from the India advantage, which is much more customized and smaller volume or flexible production. And I think that that is really going to be the way of manufacturing in future, in any case. Interestingly, Sweden's imports of goods from India is 5,393 million krona. More interestingly, 92% are chemicals and manufactured goods. I believe that Sweden and India have a huge potential edge if they work together. Sweden has a very similar mindset. You will be quite surprised that we talk a lot about the Gini factor here, and everybody knows this is one of the most equal countries in the world. But did you know that India was more equal than Switzerland? It's quite a surprise to people when they see, in spite of how poor we are still a far more flat and equal nation than many, many emerging economies and then many emerged economies. And I think that is where you have a deep cultural connect. And again, the changes work in that favor because the younger Indian, as our president highlighted again and again, does not want to be part of this stratified hierarchy, which is the India of yesterday. And they really do see themselves as very equal to each other and very equal to the rest of the world. I think that our shared values of democracy, political stability, transparency, cultural understanding. We have a joke in India that, if you have a potential investor coming into India versus China, China will take you to all the nicest parts where you can possibly go, and once you put your money down, you get to see the truth. When it comes to India, by the time you make the taxi from the airport to where you're going to visit, you know every single problem. I'm going to click through fast. I can see that you're getting worried about the time. But I want to just talk about this Wipro Hydro-Autic. In June 2006, Wipro acquired 100% of a Sweden-based company, which you know, for 31 million. The year before the merger, Wipro Infrastructure's engineering revenue was 57 million, and Hydro-Auto was 112 million. But they grew together to become 300 million by 2014. They will be $1 billion company by 2019. We have no doubt. And that's the kind of synergy that exists. My final slide shows you the real India advantage. It's the expected growth of domestic consumption. India is a market that Sweden cannot afford to ignore, and I think it offers an ideal opportunity to collaborate and grow together. Thank you very much.
And now we'd like to get the consultant's view about where Make in India could develop and transfer of technology. So I would like to welcome on stage Mr. Kanwal Monga, Chairman of Vigo Consultants in New Delhi. Please welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to tell you something today about the investment in defense in the country. The defense industry is one in which we know that Sweden has been a leader for generations. India has been dependent a lot on the Russians for their defense requirements. Time has come when, under the Make in India, the Prime Minister has indicated that defense should get the priority. $40 billion per year is the budget indicated, and this is going to go in the next 7 years, totaling to $620 billion. A lot of people who wanted to get into defense were having some issues about the level playing field in comparison to the local industry, especially the Ordnance Factory Board. Yesterday only, it has been announced that this level playing field is being given to everybody. The excise duty exemption and the other tax advantage that was given to the Ordnance Factory Board has been withdrawn, or any other public sector has been withdrawn, and everybody goes on the level playing field. People talk about 49% is the limit. Some people say that they have their own technology. They want to go beyond that. Well, 49% indicated by the government is an indication which is kind of an automatic route. But for special products, they are open to have case-by-case discussions and take it forward. In India, we have many people in the engineering field who are capable of assisting the foreign investment. And as my predecessor here informed that India does not need money, I agree. Foreign direct investment is a label on which the government is talking, but in reality, if a good technology and a good product comes to India, the money is actually not required. The money is available. People are available. Technology, yes. When you say technology, India has skills, India has power, India can develop their own technology, but they have to take the lead. Somebody has to hold their hand. And there we need some people from your country who are very much established in this field to come forward. $40 billion is not a small amount per year. A small part of that also can encourage people, and I'm sure that you, besides the big companies in Sweden, you have many small and medium enterprises who will be willing to move forward. In the morning, we are told that Sweden has 170 companies in India with an investment of about $1 billion. I must compliment Sweden that with such a small investment, they have made such a big name in the country that people really like the Swedish products. It was Sweden who introduced the mobility into India through Ericsson. It was Sweden who came to India at that time when the penetration rate of telecom was one of the lowest in the world. Mobility has taken it forward, and now we find that India has one of the highest percentage of mobile phone users in the country. So all the other industries which have come to India are doing very well. there is always a first mover advantage for some industries. We talk about the automotive. Suzuki came to India. And Suzuki did so well that today the total production made by Suzuki in India is very small as compared to his global production, but the profit in India that Suzuki makes is more than the total profit that they make around the world. Another example is near Pune, you have an industry, Cummins. Cummins has declared last week a dividend of 450%. A 450% dividend is quite a large amount that shows the kind of profits that they can make in the country. So once again, while I am talking about the defense and the government policies, I like to give you some little more background of the other issues. Our company has been responsible for sourcing the latest technologies from all over the world in the last 40 years. We were the first ones. We talk today about renewable energy, but we set up the micro-hydel projects in India way back in mid-80s when nobody talked about renewable energy. Those plants, today 30 years old, are still working perfectly well. That is the contribution towards the renewable energy. On the other hand, we have in our group a company which is in the auto components, where we export almost 30% of our production. And we are ancillary to Suzuki and Honda. And we are now moving into the aerospace in that company. We were the first ones to bring optical fiber into India in mid-80s. We set up the first joint venture with Fujitsu Japan to manufacture telecom switching system, transmission system, and the cables. So in mid-90s, Virgo was the only company in India which under this umbrella had a complete capability to set up the telecom network, electronic switching system, transmission system, carrier, all under one umbrella. That was another. Then we brought CNG, introduced CNG into India. We conceived the project way back in 1982, and we succeeded in 1999. That is the kind of perseverance you need in India to succeed. But anyway, when we did that in 2001, the entire transportation fleet of New Delhi was running on CNG, which was a world record. 10,000 buses operating on CNG, first time in the world. So like that, we have done many pioneer things. We are involved in some nuclear applications, some other critical items. BHEL Siemens technology, we shifted from Russia to Siemens way back in the late 70s. So we want Swedish people to please look at it, come to India, set up the base, and we are sure that based on your experience of other 170 industries, you will not find this also as any bad experience. Thank you.
You mentioned here that some of the companies would need some hand-holding. Next speaker is a success into India from Scania, headed by Mr. Anders Grundströmer, MD and CIO of Scania India. I'm not sure if you have done some hand-holding though, but you have really transferred new technology into the country. So please share that with us.
We are the new kid on the block in India. We came in 2011. We were 3 people then. Today we are a company with 1,000 people and producing 1,200 trucks and buses in India. What made it possible for us to come into India so quick was the cooperation we had with Larsen & Toubro in the mining sector. So the mining sector, when we came in, was on the all-time low, and now the mining sector is booming in India, together with the fast-growing premium city buses and intercity buses. So now Volvo has competition in India. Finally, you have a good bus. Since October 2013, Scania inaugurated the truck manufacturing in Narsapura outside Bangalore. We had then grown from 30 to 650 employees. We kept on growing to close to 1,000 now then. Opened our second industrial facility, bus production, in Bangalore also in March this year. So we have now a capacity in India of 2,500 trucks and 1,000 buses. And coming closer to the summer, we'll be around 1,200 employees. And that has happened since 2011. So for sure, it helps to have a good brand when you come into India. And India is very quality conscious. But India is also very service conscious. You can't come to India without selling your product without good service. Then it will not be a success. So what is the attraction then of India? The primary reasons, of course, the size and the vast opportunities of the Indian market. We see an enormous potential in India. As the aspiring middle class is growing from today's 250 to 300 million people up to 500 million people the coming 10 years. And the growing middle class in India, they're all connected to the web. They demand better quality living. They see how it is in Europe and the US, and they say, why can't we have it like this in India? Another way why we can grow is that we introduce a new way of thinking. We are not just going there selling hardware. We are also thinking about the whole logistical system. We actually not sell our products on the price. We sell it on total operating economy, which is then a new thing for India to think, where upfront price has been very, very much in focus. And we have done so during the years, and it has been a big need of training of the whole organization, the whole sales force. But we measure the cost of running the vehicle in passenger kilometers, tons per kilometer, or cost per cubic meter, if we were in mining, for instance. Thereby important factors such as fuel consumption, uptime, and durability is taken into account, making it possible for us to improve transport efficiency and gradually influence the whole logistical sector of India. Another opportunity then we have been talking about earlier here today is the great need to cut local emissions. Scania's introduction of biofuels to India's commercial vehicle segment is an example of a solution focused on environmental sustainability. We produce today fuel from waste in a city called Nagpur, which is regarded as the absolute center of India. And we have only begun this journey. Nagpur will serve as a role model for India as we embark to other cities. The demand for this kind of product in India is huge. The support from the government is very big, since India is importing 80% of its energy or oil. So if India can produce its own fuel, by then also reducing NOx and CO2 and particles with 90%, it's very much needed, since 13 of the 20 most polluted cities in the world is in India. And we do have the proven record, so we have introduced these kind of buses then running in Nagpur last year. What I would say is our ability to develop the vast Indian transportation market is our offer, and the reason we believe we'll continue to be successful in India. What we basically have done, you maybe have heard about the Scania Production System, SPS, which made Scania famous in Sweden for lean production. We actually moved that into a selling argument, because all logistical systems in the world need to be more efficient, and especially in India. Because the Indian logistical system has a cost that is $71 billion higher than it is in the US. Quite amazing, despite all these cheap products running around on the streets. And it's because of the enormous waste that is in the local logistical system in India. And here is where we have then found a business opportunity. What is hindering China today to grow? Yeah, it's a bad logistical system. And if India doesn't do anything, it will end up the same way. With hub and spoke system and more efficient taxation systems, you don't have to stop at borders. You don't have to stand 1 or 2 days at the factory to wait for a load. It's not possible to have 1 truck and 1 trailer. A logistical system should have 1 truck and 3 trailers, 2 in each end and 1 moving. Things like that in the Indian legislation we are working with Delhi, because they are setting the Motor Vehicle Act and try to explain it. And Indians are intelligent people, they understand it easily. Just help them with the method how to do it. So, Scania then, we have chosen to place its largest industrial investment in India. Actually, our first investment in the industrial system for Scania is in India. There are several reasons. I've mentioned some of the commercial ones. The first one is that you can have a 100% owned FDI in India. It's very important. In China, you know, you have to work with JVs, and then you have the problem with the loss of IP rights. In India, you can work 100% Scania. We have also seen that India has a very strategic location. If you want to supply South Asia, if you want to supply Middle East and parts of Africa, India is actually a very strategic location. And our aim is, of course, to use Indian manufacturing for export outside India as we go forward. At the moment, we only supply India. Another reason, besides having 100% FDI possibilities and also, I should say, English-speaking labor, it is that all the suppliers we have in Europe, they are available in India. Since we are also in the automotive sector, we see all the major suppliers from Europe, US, all over the world, they are also in India. They are there or they are on the way in. What we do then is that we work already now with 100 Indian suppliers to manufacture our trucks and buses. And as we develop the quality with them, we will also use those components in our European and South American operations. Although I must say that what we say in Scania, I'm an old soccer player, so I say you have to keep the eye on the ball. So you have to be with them, you have to grow with them, you have to develop with them, the suppliers. Then they will do a fantastic job. But you cannot just say, give them a drawing, say manufacture this, then you will be disappointed. But they learn, they are quick learners, and they will come. This is a vital base then for Make in India. And at Scania, we are convinced that our business long-term competitiveness must rest on doing these things the right way, ethically and sustainably. We therefore provide training to our suppliers on issues such as environmental protection, child labor, and safety at the workplace. I've been to suppliers there they are standing pouring floating metal in flip-flops. That's not what we like to see. The suppliers must share our values on which is, of course, in the core is safety first, always. And quality and cost, of course. But working with CSR together with the suppliers is very, very important. And it's needed to share the values of Scania. And that is important for Scania as we select suppliers. Having said that, we have been more than, and are of course also many other challenges. An important part of the Make in India is the ambition to get better. When we see now the ambitions realized, so let me highlight a few of them. Number one is the infrastructure and logistical system. It was mentioned here, all the roads India is building now, they have decided to have hub and spoke system, etc. But also the GST, also the goods and service tax, will really make India one market. At least we hope so. But that's what the government is promising, and that will improve flow in all value chains, because we don't have to stop at borders. The new Motor Vehicle Act will allow more trailers per truck, and that means that we will also move to a truck semi-trailer system instead of having a lot of rigids that go locally in India today. And in the current system, we are running, or a typical Indian truck is running 70,000 kilometers per year. In China, that is 90,000 kilometers, and in Europe, that is 140,000 kilometers. So with the so low utilization rate of the vehicle, of course the TOE is affected negatively. But it's not only the logistical system, it's the infrastructure, it's the taxation system, it's everything that has to be changed. We will see, the proof of the pudding will be the 1st of April 2016, if they introduce the GST and how it will be introduced. It's a very important moment for India. Other things to mention is of course the land acquisition law, labor law, need reforms. They are very old laws and need reforms. And in the end also the Smart City project, I would say also an important project for Make in India, where we can make the cities in India more sustainable. Thank you very much.
So I would like to invite all the speakers on stage, please. So we will use the opportunity now to ask a lot of questions for the speakers. And as I'm the moderator, I have the opportunity to start, but you will be called in. First, I would like to know what would be your top 3 important recommendation for a successful technical transfer? 1, 2, 3. Anders, if you start.
Hello. To protect the EP rights, of course. To learn India, to make India understand that maybe frugal engineering is not always the best way of doing things.
Okay.
Frugal engineering is a very famous word in India. I heard it several times.
Even in Sweden nowadays.
Yes. And that has a tendency to give frugal products also. And the third one, values. I think to work less hierarchical. India can learn a lot from Swedish, Scandinavian companies on working more horizontal than vertical.
Okay, thank you very much. Rishbina? What's your top 3 recommendations?
For Indian companies, or for India?
Yeah, for India.
I strongly endorse the last one that he mentioned, because I think that having a less hierarchical nation is going to be really one of the main focus areas. I think infrastructure, what he mentioned, GST and all those kind of differences which are arbitrary and artificial from one part of the country to another is going to be important. The third is that we shouldn't have spotty development. I think it's very important that we should have a different model from China. We are a democracy. And the only thing that the poor have and cherish is the vote. So I think to have equitable growth is really going to be very important.
Okay, thank you. If I take the opportunity now to drill down to you as an Indian company, not answering on India, what would be your key takeaways as a receiver of technical transfer to succeed? No, I think, no, not you. I mean, yeah. Yeah. Now I'd like to see the Indian view, the Indian company's view.
Yes.
As a
the
receiver
Indian company
of...
view of what's important
Yeah, exactly.
for the future.
How would you receive technology to be successful?
I do think that Indian companies need to have more of a disciplined approach. Again, I'm repeating some of what he said. But I think that systems, discipline, and a basic standard operating practice for everything is what we need to learn from Sweden.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So what would be your three recommendations from an Indian point of view?
Well, we just heard that frugal engineering. I think I have a little different view on that. When the big multinationals come to a country like India, they look at the possibility of selling in volumes, and to sell in volumes, looking at the Indian paying capacity, they redesign something which is not of the same standard as they have back home. With the result that no doubt, sometimes their brand also suffers to a certain extent, but that is not a right approach. I remember having met the managing director of Sony and telling him that the Sony products made in India are not of the same standard. And his immediate reply was, but your country doesn't pay me the money. Well, the question is, if that product is not made as a cheap product over there, the people who want the brand, they will be forced to pay the price. Because the buyer who buys Sony, he buys Sony for the brand, for the quality associated with that. And he will definitely pay for that. It is not that he will not pay. So it is also for the multinationals coming to India to consider that they should not take a shortcut and to build volumes in a short time and just go with the frugal engineering. That's my point.
That's actually very true.
Good point.
Because many companies, they come and they really devalue their product quality, I think. But I just add one more comment there. I think frugal, but systematic.
Okay.
No surprises. I think that would make a lot of difference.
Well, I would say that most of the companies, we hate surprises, you know. We'd like to know. So thank you for that. Mr. Widerström, what would be your recommendations?
I would put highest on the list, and that's why I have a lot of hope for Make in India to reduce the bureaucracy, the regulations. By doing that, you will also gain speed, because speed is also equal to efficiency. Speed is less costs, especially I would say in the defense business. We're used to extremely long sales cycles, and I'm encouraged at the same time as I'm a bit worried about the enthusiasm from the Indian industry when it comes to diving into this pool full of gold and diamonds, which is called the defense industry. It's an extremely boring industry. It's long-term, low margins, and you need a lot of patience. And I think the Indian industry will see that, not tomorrow, but the day after. But Make in India will definitely speed up and make it more possible than it is today. And I think that is definitely, and that's also what's needed if you look at the user side. What does India need? India need to grow its capabilities when it comes to the defense forces, etc. But right now, due to their own bureaucracy, the generals are not getting what they want, whether they get it from us or someone else. Currently, they aren't getting anything. So I think speed, less bureaucracy, that's the key.
Okay, Thank you very much.
Håkan, can I say something? So Make in India, when you talk to the people in Delhi, etc., it's quite okay. So they're very good guys. But when you go through the system, when you come down on the state level and sometimes on the city level, it's something different. And that's what I mean with bureaucracy. That what the people say in Delhi, it's okay. As the visions are right and everything. But in the end of the day, it should be produced in a city somewhere in India. And that's another ball game.
So you mean we are back to implementation about the targets, ambitions? Okay,
yeah.
Thank you for that. I think I would open up the seminar for questions from the public. Would we have any questions for the speakers?
A question for Mr. Mungal.
Yes, please.
When you have collaboration with foreign companies on technology transfer, are the agreements, the contracts that you sign, are they very thick and are they easy to make?
Well, they are difficult to negotiate. But yes, when the contracts are made, they are pretty small document, and the contracts are executed and honored very well. We have had a series of success stories, so I don't have any regret on that. We do it pretty well.
Non-success stories as well, perhaps. But does the court handle such problems easily?
Well, we read in the newspapers off and on. Our court system is pretty good, and people do get their problems addressed pretty well. So our legal system is much better than China.
Exactly.
Take some time. Yeah.
I mean, there is, I heard in the High Court in Delhi, it's 6.5 million resting cases.
Well, the thing is that out of that, if you look at the actual number of cases, they may not be even 10%. Because anybody just gets up in the morning, goes around the block, sees some little problem, and just goes to the court and files the case. So those kind of cases have got...
that's a problem.
Yeah, that's the big problem. That's the problem.
Okay.
I would just like to mention one thing about the land issue, because every day we read a lot about the land, that the industrialists who want to go there do not have the possibility to buy land. I would like industrialists to consider that investment in land for an industrialist is not a good investment. An industrialist should invest in the machines which churn out the products and give the result. Land should be taken on lease, and when you take the land on lease from the farmer, ensuring that he gets 1.5 times the earning that he's making from his land, as has been recorded in the records of the state, on a continuous basis, he will have no objection in parting with his land because he's not losing any money. But the moment you want to buy the land in India, majority of the industrialists, and I'm sorry to say, even the top industrialists, they require 10 acres of land, they will ask for 100 acres. They will run the industry for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, and then they will close down the industry, wait for 10 years, sell the land at astronomical prices. That thing needs to be stopped. That is the problem. So what we are talking at the moment to the government to ease is that land should be given to the industrialist only on lease basis. Okay. So long as he runs the industry, he's on the land. The moment he closes the industry, he has no right on the land.
Okay, thank you very much. Would we have any more questions? Yes, please, here.
Well, we have heard a lot about Sweden. In the past also, we have done some business maybe 30 years back to buy some steel from here. I think we have a very good experience with Sweden. I have not heard anybody talking against the Swedish industry or Swedish people.
Good.
Sweden will be welcome anywhere.
Yes, please. Here we have a question.
The Indian government is working on ease of doing business and making it possible for European companies to become actually make a difference in the Make in India context, what would that be?
I think, should we start with Jan here?
All right.
Now you're a sender, Jan.
Yes. Let's see. One message. I'm thinking at least, so that's... No, I think the signals that they have already sent out, and they have started the work with the, in regards to the FDI is very important. Another single message would be, please do not direct TOT to PSUs. Let us choose together with the Indian industry whom to partner with.
Okay, good. Anders, what's your message to be sent?
Yeah, introduce GST as planned.
Okay. So you're supporting the government, what they are doing already. Okay,
Mine might be a little stronger. I was very upset with the education budget because they actually cut education spend, which was like shocking to me. 2% of India are skilled up for the kind of jobs that we're talking about creating for Make in India. So I believe very strongly that lower level education, not university education, which has somehow always been an obsession with successive Indian governments, really needs to change to skilling up people with the basic capabilities to live a fair life.
Okay.
So that's my message.
Good. Mr. Mongal, what would be your message?
I'll support that because as we talk about 500 million people to be converted into skilled workers, that is more important. We have many engineers and many PhDs who are looking for a job and they don't have a job. And unfortunately, there are people who are PhD engineers, and when you call them for interview, sometimes they are not matching the kind of degrees that they are talking about. So the education system in India at the moment, since it became a commercialized thing, it is not the right, so better to keep the people at 5 years lower than the degrees and convert them into skilled workers. That is better.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions? Otherwise, I would like to ask you about the importance of, you talk very much about products, technical systems, systematic way. What about the company cultures? Would that be of importance?
I think you're talking also about the country culture and the diversity. Okay. To me, connect is more important than the culture. And I think that India is such a diverse country that there's no such thing as an Indian culture, even though people try very hard to package it that way. So I think that what's very important is all these subcultures and different kind of varying beliefs, I think can be held together by the company very well if we all behave very much like the Swedish. And I think that there's a huge desire in India to work hard and to achieve and to please, because that's also part of our culture. And it can be leveraged very strongly by companies that connect. Of course, we have labor laws, and everyone will tell you you have to treat unions differently from the management, and it's partly true. I won't write it off, but at the end of the day, I think you need to connect with the people. And for example, in our company, we have a day when we meet all the families and we meet all their children and their wives, and the generational divide in culture is much deeper than your divide with India.
Okay, thank you very much. Anders, what would be your view on this? Would you have a Scania culture in Bangalore today?
Yeah, I would say that we always say that we are not building Indian factories, we are building Scania factories in India. And we really mean it. So if you visit Bangalore today, you will not see a difference to our factory in Bangalore than in Holland or in Sweden. It's the same. Okay. But the values is tougher with people. You have to work. So we have our core values. All companies have its core values. We have our house. We have our priorities, etc. And there, we spend a lot of time training and talking to people about what does the core values mean to you. Because they all come from a different cultural and family background than we do from Sweden. And here we need to meet each other, and it will take a lot of training to do that. It will take years, and you have to take it seriously to succeed. So that's what we are doing.
So would you say that you would need more investment in culture when you're entering a new country than anywhere else?
If you want it to be a Scania factory or a Scania organization, you have to work a lot with attitudes. For instance, India, I've been running, starting Scania in Russia, and I've been around in the world, mainly in Europe. But in India, it's the first time I really have to be, when I talk to people, say that in Scania, respect for the individual means that it doesn't mean what kind of, if you are female or male, if you are, what kind of religion you have, or what kind of caste you belong to. You know, the caste system is forbidden since the 50s, but it's still very much alive. And that we don't accept. So every day when we meet, we are on the same level. That's a little bit Scandinavian, I think, or Swedish. Everyone has the same value.
Good, thank you very much.
I'd like to highlight that's one of the reasons why German companies and Swedish companies have done so well in India. And I think whatever you're saying, while it's true, it actually is respected very deeply as compared to, for example, the Japanese companies, which have a huge problem in India because they come in and they want to treat the people as sort of like different from themselves, whether they're management or workers. And this is really also an advantage. You'll find that Swedish and German companies are far more profitable and far more successful going forward.
Good, thank you. Jan, would there be a Saab culture as well?
We're trying, I would say. Of course, I would be lying if they're saying that there are no challenges. I think there are challenges. I would say more on the side where the enthusiasm and the way of interpreting how to do business, it is different. It is a different. And we're working on that on a daily basis. And I think the trick here is to not to create this Saab factory, in our case at least, because I think we are slightly more dependent on a big partner because of the regulations in our branch. We're not allowed the 100%, etc. So in that case, we have to have a strong partner with us on equal terms. And that's an Indian partner, so we have to work on that. And that means that their culture and our culture, how to do business, and what to expect. How do you prepare for a meeting? Or do you prepare for a meeting or not? I mean, those kind of things are challenging, but on the other hand, I can say the more how difficult can it be kind of mentality, which is the Indian mentality, sometimes I wish we had more of that.
Okay, good, thank you. Mr. Mongal, what's your take on this?
Well, I say that when the foreigners come to India to set up the factory, they are most respected because of their technical skills. Because if Indian partner who is looking for a foreign partner to come and set up the industry, set up a joint venture, has a lot of respect for him. Indians are pretty flexible to learn from them. And I don't think that any Swedish company in India has had any kind of a problem on this issue. I think they're pretty flexible, willing to accept the knowledge and respect them.
Good, thank you very much.